I don't know why that thing's shaking. It's not because I'm nervous, but it kind of looks that way. No one else is shook. They did? Man, that would drive me crazy. So if you don't want to look at it, that's fine. I want to say thanks to Jen and David. I got to referee with both of them years ago and appreciate the opportunity, the friendship, and the opportunity to be here and to be able to share what I feel like God's done in my life through basketball and the opportunities that basketball has presented me. I can tell you that you can ask me anything about basketball that you want to, anything. And in fact, at the end, if we have time, I'm going to expect one question from every table. Ask me anything you want to ask me about the rules. I wrote the book for 8 years, worked closely with Ed Billick and Art Highland on the men's side, and we've got the experts on the men's side here as well. They'll be happy to probably chime in and help there. Doug was at the Rules Committee meeting last year whenever we were there. That was an 8-year term for me. I haven't had to answer very many rules questions since I took over as a coordinator, but I would be happy if I don't have the answer to call on somebody else or get you the answer. But I want you to be able to ask me anything. With that said, I want to share with you some things that I feel like are important or have been important. Have been important to me in my career. I started out, I played college basketball at Louisiana Tech. At the time, we went to 4 Final Fours, lost 6 games in 4 years, won 2 national championships, the first NCAA championship that they ever offered for women's basketball. That's how long ago it was. Got out, coached college basketball as Division I assistant at Georgia Southern. Got out, started having babies. My husband's career in athletics took off so that I could stay home and take care of the kids, homeschool the kids for 15 years. While I was doing that, I decided to go back to school and get my doctorate. So I did that, did some marketing in the WNBA and sport management, sports psych stuff at University of Houston. I thought I heard a cougar somewhere in here. Coached my son's basketball teams. That's whenever people told me to shut up and sit down. Referees told me to shut up and sit down because I didn't know what I was talking about. Was the rules editor. I've kept a shot clock. I've done color for the North Carolina State high school games. So I've done, if it's been in basketball, I've done it. I probably haven't done your job, but I've done a lot of different things. And as I heard all the different schools called out, I thought, either I've worked at one of these schools or gone to one of these schools, or my husband's worked at one of these schools, or they're in the Big East or the Americans. So I think I've got almost this whole room covered. But basketball's been very good to me. And I will tell you that I believe in a lot of the things that Bobby said, but I can tell you I'm very protective of this game. I know we all share the game, but I'm very, very protective about us taking responsibility for our behavior, our actions, and how we take care of this game and the decisions that touch this game. So today I want to talk to you about what's inbounds or out of bounds. And for some of us, or for some of you, it seems like in our business, the lines can be very blurred. As referees, you're either on the line or you're out. You're either inbounds or you're out of bounds. But for some of us, in some of the conversations that take place, it seems like the lines are getting blurred. Now, I understand. I tweeted a picture of some referees all together in a huddle at a UConn game, and it said something like, not everything is black and white, but it's pretty close, and it's kind of a close-up of their shirts. And I believe that. It's not everything is black and white, but it's pretty daggone close. And in this society today, and I didn't realize I had animation on these slides, so I'm just going to flip them all and have them up. But in this game today, what I hear a lot of people talking about is what is politically correct and what is not, and being careful not to step on somebody's toes and not to hurt people's feelings. And I don't consider myself abrasive, but apparently I'm perceived to be at times. I tweeted something earlier this year. I said, just because the black polyester fits doesn't mean you are fit. There's no excuse for refs making thousands of dollars a night to be unfit at this time of the year. And I just got blasted. Calls went from the NCAA to the commissioner at the Big East and to the commissioner at the American. Like, what is she doing calling out her own people? Well, you know what? We better be calling each other out. And somebody made the comment to me. They said, it's all right. One of my officials, a Final Four official, said, you know, it's okay if Mama calls me out, but Mama doesn't need to call me out to the whole country. And I just said, suck it up. Suck it up. Get your tail in shape or go find something else to do. You know, so things are pretty black and white in a lot of different ways. And I want to talk to you sometimes about what people talk about as game management that I see, at least on the women's side. I don't know how things are done. I don't know as much about the men's side. I should say that. I know enough to know that we're different on some things. And we do a good job of respecting each other's differences, I think. But on the women's side, this is what we teach, and I taught as the national coordinator at the NCAA and as a coordinator of officials where I am now. Management versus manipulation. We talk about game management. Let's take care of this and let's take care of that. And some of the things that I've heard said and people say is, you know what, I'll teach them how to flop. I'm going to bang their tail a block, and I bet they don't flop on me again. So we got people teaching. I mean, I coached. You tell me that, or I hear that you said that, you're cheating. Now, we don't like to call each other cheaters. But I'm telling you, you tell me that you saw something illegal, but you didn't put a whistle on it because it just didn't quite fit at that time. You set aside a rule. I had an official tell me, I said, it was a huge play in a huge game in the NCAA tournament, and the official came out like they were going to punch a charge, and all of a sudden went block. And I mean, just the air went out of the place. And later I had a conversation to say, tell me what your thoughts were on that play. Well, you know what? I said, and she went through the whole deal, and I said, well, do you believe that it was the block that you caused? She goes, no, I really think it was a charge, but it was her fifth foul, and she was a senior, and I just couldn't live with that. So I picked up the phone after I dropped it, and I said, could you say that again? I said, we're not good enough, nor is it our job to decide that we're going to manipulate the game. Your job was to call the foul that was the foul. The foul was this. Ship it. It's her fifth. She shouldn't have gotten 1 through 4. It wouldn't have been her fifth. You can't get a fifth if you don't have a fourth. You can't get a fourth, you don't have a third. Now, I got my youngest child is a senior in high school. And I have told all my kids that. The same thing. You can't get the third if you don't have the second. So the fact that it's her fifth and she's a senior, too bad, baby. See ya. Hope you get in the WNBA because it ain't happening tonight. How about the ball rolls around on the rim and I would have called a foul it goes in and then we go, you know what? Or it goes out and now we have a whistle. This happened twice this year in my leagues. And my conversation was, talk to me about that foul with 2:22 on the baseline across from the St. John's bench. Well, I said, no. Was it a foul? Yeah. Were you waiting to see if it was going to go in? Well, yeah. Okay. It was either a foul or it wasn't. Whether it went in or not was irrelevant. Now, it goes in, then we got one free throw. It doesn't go in, we got two, okay? That's a whole nother issue. If it was a foul, blow the foul. But when we decide, well, she this and that, no, because I stand up in front of coaches all the time and I say to them, we aren't keeping track of who did this so we can get this on the other end. We're not trying to do that stuff. And then I have to tell officials, stop doing that stuff. I'm thinking we're not doing it, and then I get in the locker room and have this kind of conversation. How about people who are teaching, I don't want you to check the time and the score before you make that call. Does that make this call any less? Does that make that rule any less important or more important based on what they look at on the scoreboard? Do we really want people processing everything that's up here and then I determine how illegal this is? I mean, if it's 50-50, we're going to want to probably give the player the benefit of the doubt anyway on that travel. So, I mean, it's not like I'm making stuff up anyway. But I'm really not going to call what I know is illegal contact because the score is here, because the foul count is this or that. Or how about the foul count is 9-1? Now I'm going to go start finding fouls so I can get that foul count closer? Are you serious? The fouls are either there or they're not. We're either calling them or they're not. And you know what? If we're calling it over here, we're calling it over here. And I know we have to deal with coaches. I have to listen to coaches. Well, the foul count was 9-1. Well, stop fouling. Well, it's not that easy. Oh, yeah, it is. Because we put in a hand check rule that says, I touch you, and this is on the women's side. I touch you once. I touch you a second time, the fist goes up. It sucks, especially when it's 90 feet from the basket. I understand that. But I went to all 21 schools, all 10 in the Big East, all 11 in the American. I sat right here with the teams. I pulled the player out and I said, one touch, second touch, the whistle's going. Two hands, automatic. Arm bar, automatic. You come into me, we're not blowing the whistle. I put my arm bar on you, whistle. And that's what we're going to do. So I go to a scrimmage. It's not happening. I call a timeout in a scrimmage that's not my own. I said, I need a 30. We'll be right back. So I go to the huddle with officials. What are you doing? I said, what do you mean? Well, it's the first scrimmage. I don't care. I just told them we were going to be doing this stuff. We lose credibility. I lose credibility. You lose credibility if we aren't all on the same page. It's a foul or it's not. Call it. Our job is not to keep the best players in the game. Our job is to enforce the rules. Their job is to keep themselves in the game. Are we going to miss some? Yes, absolutely. Could it be her fifth that I kick? Yeah. But you know what? I mean, that's part of what happens. But my job is to enforce the rules. It's not to worry about who's out there. Now, I get that, hey, listen, when the hamburgers go out, the french fries come in, and my life's miserable. I know that. I know. I mean, yeah, I was in 4 Final Fours on the bench. I didn't play but a minute 15 because Kim Mulkey was my teammate. See what I'm saying? I mean, I get when players like me come in the game and you have to put a bunch of whistles on it, but that's not your problem. You got to referee these kids, and if they're going to foul and make those choices, then you know what? We got to put a whistle on it. I tell the story in the NCAA clinics that, if I tell Nathan, you got to be home at midnight, or I'm going to take your keys away. Nathan comes in at 12:02. And I say, I tell you to come in at midnight. If you didn't come in at midnight, I was going to take your keys away. You do that again, and I'm going to take your keys away. The next night, what time's Nathan come in? Oh, 12:10. 12:10. Son, 2 nights in a row, I told you. You got to be in at midnight. You don't not in at midnight, I got to take your keys away. Now you do it again, and I'm going to take your keys away. These are the kids we're refereeing, right? They're not denied anything until we put a whistle on what they do. So the next night, what time do you think Nathan comes in? Well, somebody at the NCAA clinic said he doesn't. Now, by the same token, Nathan comes in at 11:59 and I go, give me your keys. And he's like, I'm in before midnight. I don't care. You were close to midnight, and so give me your keys. You know, that's what we do in some of this stuff, is on that flop thing. We don't even let him get to midnight. He didn't even create illegal contact, and we put a whistle on it. But when they do something wrong, we've got to penalize them. This whole deal about, you know what, she has 4 at the last meeting. She has 4, let's make her 5th a good one. What, the first 4 weren't good ones? So the 5th one's got to be better? Define better. Define a good one. What is that? I mean, do we want to be sure? Absolutely. We should have wanted to be sure on the first 4. It's not any more important. I mean, there are some other consequences to that, but we ought to know. I didn't want to whack her because no one saw it but me. So the ball rolls over to the bench. I go over to pick up the ball in my younger days when I didn't know that players should be giving me the ball. And this kid flips me off when I was refereeing. So we get in the dressing room. My partner goes, did you see that kid flip you off? I'm like, did I whack somebody? She said, no, I mean, did you see her? I said, no, if I'd have seen her, I'd have whacked her. So what are you talking about? She goes, well, I saw her. And I said, you did what? She didn't know 15 years later I'd be assigning games. I didn't whack him because I knew I kicked it. Now I get, again, as a player and a coach and a referee and a coordinator, I get that if we do some some things that will infuriate coaches, and sometimes we even do things to inflame a situation, but that never gives anyone the right to be unsporting and cross the line. Now I get when we talk about inbounds or out of bounds, and what do you consider inbounds and out of bounds in your repertoire of officiating? I get that I may give somebody some rope and how much rope Doug gives and how much rope Coach Rush gives. That's a whole nother thing. But I know one thing, we all have a line, and when they cross that line, it doesn't matter why they crossed it. If they go into, they're out at half court, and that happened in a game of mine this year too. And they said, well, I knew we kicked it, so I just let her go. No, you don't. How can you justify that? I can't defend you if you're setting aside a rule. I just can't. That's manipulation. That's not game management. It's not. The whistle is going to teach the lessons. Our conversations may teach some lessons as well. But you know what? I think if we are putting whistles consistently on things that break rules, violate rules, then we're going to teach, those things will teach the lessons themselves. It's not our job to match plays. A lot of times we'll say, well, it was a block on this end and I knew we kicked it there, so I wanted to go ahead and kick it over here. Really? Really? That's not being truthful. That's not doing our job. My job is to take care of the game, my job, and the job of my crew. But what I feel like happens a lot of times is, especially the more experienced officials, and that may happen out here this weekend, will feel like they need to overcompensate for their partners. And next thing you know, they're calling all over the floor, and they don't even know what you can do. And we've got to be very careful about that when it comes to play calling too, because that can be manipulating. I can come out, and I saw this happen. I mean, I live in Livingston, Alabama. My husband's the athletic director at University of West Alabama. Who's a guy from Tuscaloosa? Man, I could have gone all day without hearing Roll Tide. I'm an hour west of him, in the middle of nowhere. And this guy comes in the gym, and he's refereeing the men's game. My husband's an AD, so I go to games whenever I'm in town. And this guy comes out, and he's blowing all over the floor. And I knew what was going on. I mean, he was basically, I don't know another way to say this. I mean, I'm a country girl, but he was pissing all over his territory. He was claiming his territory. I mean, isn't that what dogs do? And I knew that's what was going on. I'm watching, and of course, in Livingston, Alabama, and in the Gulf South Conference, they don't think anybody knows more than they do. And I'm sitting up there going, you guys, I know exactly where we're going here. But you want to talk about overcompensate, but this guy was in total control of the game, and he came out and let everybody know that he was. And he manipulated that game. He manipulated that crew. And all of a sudden, it got to be a pissing match between he and the other and the U1. And they were going back and forth on blowing in front of each other. And, you know, everybody thinks that's refereeing. I mean, you know, you're there to watch. They think that's refereeing. But we can manipulate the game with our whistle and amongst our crew as well. I can just back off and say, fine, you want it, you take it. You want to live that way? You want to live by that whistle and where you're blowing? You know what, buddy? You're going to die that way too. You're going down. And I'm just going to get my check after the game and I'm going home. I can just cruise right on out of here, pick up. I mean, I chart every and have for, I don't know, 5 years at least. Every correct call, what is in my opinion, realizing I can be wrong. But if I watch this crew work, I've got a system and I can, on my piece of paper, every correct call. So I go time, foul, Stanford, bend, at lead, check, or X, shooter. And then I pay somebody to enter it into a software called QuickGraph so it can spit out a score for you. And Charlene Curtis does the same thing at the ACC with her conference, and she'll be here later. She's on her way. She has the ACC, the Big South Southern, and the Colonial, and she uses QuickGraph as well. I know the PAC uses it. I don't remember who else uses it, but anyway, I'm looking at this, and so I'm charting all these calls. And I can go in after the game, and I can say, you had 3 whistles the whole first half. The other thing I do is the incorrect no calls. And guess what? You had 11 incorrect no calls. But you're still getting paid tonight. Tonight. But sometimes we manipulate the game by just backing off and just putting it on cruise. And referees do that. What about whenever a team is down and all of a sudden we start getting calls that we hadn't seen all day long? It's a 50-50 play. We're going to give it to the losing team. Okay, well, all right. I get that. It's a 60-40 play, and all of a sudden they're still getting the calls. Coaches go back. They watch a ton of film. When I was handing the refereeing assignments to the coaches at the American tournament, as soon as I handed an assignment to the staff, they look at it and they go, oh, thanks, Debbie. Yep, that's Miss Block Charge. That's Miss Armbar. That's Miss Post Play. They all knew who she was talking about. You have nicknames amongst the people that you work. You tag, they know you. On the men's side, they got stats on these guys. I mean, you can go, and on the women's side too, but especially on the men's side. How many calls Doug made on the post against this player at this school? How many kinds of different calls? I don't even know all the categories. They got it on all of their officials. Some guy has no life. And he is tagging you, and they will do the same thing to you as well. So the fact that you back off, you're not going to hide from anybody. But when we start giving calls away, coaches go back and see it. They're not saying, well, you know, it's a losing team and that's okay. No, they're saying They made something up and gave it to them, and you lose credibility. And you know what? Everybody in black and white loses credibility. Because the black and white, we don't have names. That's a problem I have with our business. I think that's why we get treated the way we do. Because we are inanimate. We're just somebody in black and white. I mean, we are. And that's part of the reason that people treat us that way. And when they see you give a call away and they watch it in film when they're scouting or they're watching somebody that they're going to play and they're watching you do all this stuff, they know they're going to get screwed when you come to them. Unless you're losing. Then you're going to get some calls. But I talked about coaching players. You know, it's a small thing in the referee world. I wrote an article when I took the secretary rules editor job at the NCAA. It's called I Didn't Know What I Didn't Know. And it was 10 years ago. It was in '06. It's called I Didn't Know What I Didn't Know. 10 myths of officiating. And what it was, they were rules that I thought were rules when I coached and got technical fouls for as an assistant coach because I was running my mouth. But I thought they were rules, like you can't take a charge when you're moving, and I don't remember what they all were. But it was about things I thought I knew as a coach that after I started being the rules editor, I realized, or started refereeing, I should say, I didn't realize were rules. But one of the things we do is we do coach players, and we call it game management. And we call it preventative officiating or whatever, like a throw-in. This is a small example. But if the defender's standing too close to the thrower in, I'm going to step in and I'm going to tell that kid to back up. Right? Because we don't want them reaching over the boundary. We don't want them slapping the ball. We don't want them because what's going to happen if they do all that stuff? I got to blow my whistle. And I got to blow it on a situation that's atypical. Nobody's going to understand it. So then I'm probably going to have to blow it again. Right? And I don't really want to deal with all that. So I'll tell you what, you just back up and get me out of the soup before you get us both in the soup as to what we're doing. When in fact, as the coach, I put that 6-foot kid on the thrower in or that 6'9" kid on the thrower in right up into the boundary for a reason. It's strategic. And what do? We take them out of that. In fact, we'll stop the game and give defense time to all set up while we're moving them back. And as referees, I think one of the best things you can do is coach. Because you learn these things. When you get screwed by a referee, you learn how not to screw. Well, that didn't come out right. That really didn't come out right. But Jen can tell you, I do this kind of stuff. Yeah, there's usually one like, I'll confess one of them. I'm on the stage one day, and so I tell the tech guy to come up. I said, could you come up here and turn me on? And I was talking about this mic thing, and he's like running to the stage. So yeah, anyway, back to the throw-in. Well, I got one worse than that. We were in Philly my very first year, and I was behind schedule. So I got up and I said, all right, guys, we're going to be moving really, really quickly. So strap it on. We're going fast. And I mean, I never did get that room back. We don't have the right to coach them. Now, again, I think there's a fine line in preventative officiating or trying to, diffuse a situation. But there are some other situations we need to keep our hands off of. And I had somebody go, that's my alarm. That means time's up. Some other situations that we can't step into, but when it comes to coaching, we need to stay away from it. That's a strategy, and we don't need to have any part of it. These are things we say about each other. All right, that's mine. What do they think they're doing? Those are things that have no place in our game. Those are things that create us an environment where we are manipulating the game, and it's interfering with the job that either I'm doing or we're all trying to do. These are things that have been told to me. People call, a handful of people over 3 years at the NCAA will call and say, I can't believe you made that person the R. And I'm like, I can't believe you're calling me to tell me I made that person. And I know I made them the R. And there's a reason you're not moving on. I can't believe I'm the standby. Well, guess what? I had an official tell me I have never encountered difficulty in officiating. And you sat me at the table. And I'm better than so-and-so. And I said, well, someone did you a disservice. I mean, my goal was not to create difficulty for you as an official. It was to reward the people who were better than you last night. That's why you're at the table. They were better than you. That was part of it. When we talk about preparing for a game, I cannot tell you, if there's one thing I've learned since September 1 when I took over as a coordinator for 2 conferences, is people can't follow instructions. They can't do the simplest things. I say, I'm getting away from my NCAA email address. I want to use this email address. I want you to email me your contract to this address. You know how many contracts are sitting in my NCAA box today? Too many. One's too many. All I ask you to do is email the right address. I sent a form to officials that work for me that said, I need for you to complete this and get it back to me by the deadline. And all you had to do was tell me in a range of games, just highlight that range of games. So I want an electronic copy. Highlight the range. Answer these questions, and I forget what all. I had an official email me all of her answers and say, I can't seem to get my computer to highlight. So I wrote her back. I said, sister, girlfriend, I love you, but I ain't doing your work. When you get some tech skills, call me back and we can talk about your contract. It's part of the business. Follow instructions, being fit, we talked about that. That's easy right now when you're 20 and 25, right? It's easier, I should say. It's never easy, but it's easier. But I'm telling you, as you progress through your career, the biggest, it's so competitive. And that's one of the complaints I got at the NCAA is I would have to say, you know, their fitness level just isn't up to par. And I have that struggle in my leagues as well. And some people don't want to hear it. Well, we should embrace all kinds. Yeah. We should be all inclusive. We should be tolerant. We should be all these things. You know what? No, you should be in shape. You should be able to run and breathe, because without oxygen you can't think, and without thinking you shouldn't be blowing your whistle. That's not you can't be blowing. You shouldn't be blowing your whistle. Being sharp mentally. You know, I think it's a big deal that you know a coach's name. Now, you should not be calling them by their first name. I should be calling them Coach Rezac. I should be treating them with respect, right? But I should have some awareness. Yes, do I need to know player styles, team styles, all that other stuff? Yeah, but that's not to say that I should be using it to set aside the rules. I should be aware of things, but that should never say, oh, well, you know, it's Breanna Stewart and we need to keep her. No, Breanna needs to keep Breanna in the game. All right? And I just need to be really accurate with my calls. And then we've talked about communication plenty. And then off the court, we got people that go, you know what? You only brought me 5 towels? Are you serious? Don't you know my name is Doug Shaws? No. I'm sure he doesn't get the reputation for being a good official by demanding things of the locker room staff and game management. That just should not happen, but it's happening. How about cracking jokes? So I show up, I come from work, I was teaching here at NC State. Come from work, jump in my car, go do a game. I get to the game and my partner goes, man, that skirt looks really good on you. It looked better up around your neck. And I'm busy, I'm going, what does that mean? It just flew right over me. And I'm on my way home, and I'm going, oh my God, I can't, he really said that. I mean, that's how fast it was going. I was rushing, it just went right over me. I didn't even think about it. The things that we say in a locker room doesn't stay in a locker room. People talk. I was out of officiating 5 years. Somebody goes, you know so-and-so watched you shower at such and such a gym? And I thought back on it because we share locker rooms. Could have. I mean, I thought I was alone. Could have. It's too stupid to know not to go tell everybody. Of course, at that point, I mean, you know, what you going to do? He said, she said. I'm telling you, you're going to remember this day when I tell you that there's going to be a sexual harassment lawsuit come out because we're so careless with what we're doing and saying in the locker rooms on the women's side because we share very small dressing space and we don't think anything about it or what y'all are saying. At a game, we're warming up in the gym and the male official and the female official were arguing over who was going to get the good-looking female assistant coach. I want her. No, I want her. I want her. Well, the coach from the other team was right behind the wall and heard the whole thing. And we started out that game and she was down our throat before we even tipped. And we're going, what's going on? And found out later that that's what happened. We're at the Big East tournament this year in Allstate Arena in Chicago. And we go into the locker room and we're sharing the wall, literally. I walked in and I said, I just want y'all to know, because the championship crew got there and they decided to meet in the bigger room. I said, or it wasn't the championship crew, I can't remember which one it was. I said, Seton Hall's on the other side of this wall. Just want you to know. They can hear everything you say. They said, oh, I think we should meet in the other locker room. I said, that's probably a good call. So we need to be careful about what we do, what we're texting. You know, in the day where you got paid from point of origin, people would claim an address that wasn't theirs. Now it's flat fee. You work a game, you're going to get $1,500 or $3,000 no matter where you're coming from. And they were like, well, that's part of the business. Do you live at that address? No, but my aunt does. No, that's lying. That's lying. It speaks to your integrity. Your behavior in public places. Referees, a lot of referees like to drink, and a lot of referees like to drink a lot. And I don't care who you are. You can't drink a lot and be yourself. You say, oh, yeah, I can. It's the self you may not know, but it's myself all the way. I think you need to be very careful. We're in hotels with players. I get on a flight. I am flying to, I don't know, but it's a small plane. But they have first class, and I'm sitting in the back row of the first. I'd gotten an upgrade. I'm sitting there, which I don't need because I can't reach the floor anyway. And I'm sitting there, and this girl gets on, and she is being so rude to the flight attendant. And it's the official I'm going to watch in like Omaha or somewhere. There is somebody from Creighton here, right? Yeah, it's like Omaha. And I'm thinking, I'm missing my son's game to go watch you. I wanted to get off that plane right there. It's like, I don't care how many correct calls you have tonight. I don't care if I ever see you again. I don't, because the way you're treating that person, it was terrible. I'm hurrying. So solutions. Integrity is the quality of being honest and fair. The quality or state of being complete or undivided. Well, if that's true, then honesty is not hiding the truth. Okay, then what is the truth? It's real facts about something. We get in trouble when we compromise. A compromise is a change that makes something worse and that is not done for a good reason. Now, that's not to say if I don't have a good reason I should be doing it, right? But I'm telling you that integrity has everything to do with the truth and being as honest as you know. Now, can we later find out that maybe we have made a mistake? Yes, absolutely. But with all good intentions, I want to try to do the right thing. My kids asked me to get on Facebook so I could see their pictures. That to me was one of the highest compliments as a parent, that your teenagers would ask you. My teenager set me up on Facebook with a totally bogus name so I could go see what they were posting because they were so excited about some of their pictures. Well, I go to my youngest, and this is what he has on this page. And I'm thinking, it worked after all. But I don't think we got to spank people to get respect, but I do think when you put a whistle on it and there's a penalty for bad choices and bad behaviors, breaking rules, then people earn respect. Communication. I'm just going to have to send this to you some other way, but in the fine print, this says, and this is really a hit on women, right? A joke against women. If I say to you, fine, it says, this is a word women use to end an argument when she knows she is right and you need to shut up. So in other words, it doesn't really mean that things are fine, right? And the list goes on, but we don't have time for all that. So, but I should say this. The bonus word is wow. This is not a compliment. She is amazed that one person could be so stupid. So just a couple of clues, and I'll send this to Jen. These might help you, people that are in a relationship. Bottom line is, mean what you say and say what you mean. You know what? Just because you can talk doesn't mean you should. This was on a referee's shirt at camp last summer, and I had to get a picture of it. Sometimes you just need to stop talking. Just stop talking. I believe what Brad said. We shouldn't respond to statements. But even amongst each other, we got to stop talking. And when we eat our own. We chew each other up in this business. And we are all we have. I go to the Final Four and they go, which team are you for? I said, I'm for the referees. They're like, yeah, right. No, I mean, we should be for each other, but we will chew each other up, and we should not be. Come on. This was on the side of I think I took this, or somebody I know took this. It says, be careful whose toes you step on. They may be connected to the you-know-what you have to kiss. Now, when we talk about treating others as you want to be treated, I should not be treating someone well just because of what they can do for me. I should be treating them well no matter what. I stop in Tuscaloosa to get gas yesterday. I clean my windshield. I go to get the thing wet so I can finish, and the guy goes, I'll take that. So I gave it to him. I went over, and I got another one. He goes, well, why didn't you tell me you were finished? I said, one of us had to walk over there and get it. Why not be me? Now, I don't know him. I'll never see him the rest of my life. But when you have a servant's attitude, which I do not always do, it was a good day, okay? I think we should treat others as we want to be treated. And then I talked earlier about being honest. My daughter got married last summer. This was a text I got from her that morning. She has the nerve to tell me to breathe. Now, I've been kicking it pretty hard, right? So she tells me, don't you stress out, because this is my wedding day, and if I'm not stressed, you don't need to be stressed. And I just immediately type back, I'm not stressed at all. I'm just exhausted and emotional. What's your problem? And I was sitting with her last night. She's a grad student at Duke, and I said, do you remember this? She goes, I don't even remember that. I mean, I do now. But I think we should be honest. I'm not stressed. I'm just exhausted, that's all. We should be honest with each other. I'm the scorekeeper for my son's high school basketball team. I know my role. My husband is the head coach. Do I try to tell him what to do? Never. When an official comes over, and I've already told the home book, you're in the bonus, and he comes over and goes, are you in the bonus? And she says no, and I go, yes, they should be shooting. And he looks, he goes, she's the home book, shut up. I want to say, fine, have yourself a correctable error for lunch. Go ahead. But when you have it, and you have to come back to me because you don't know the rule, I can help you. First dead ball. Know your role. And it may mean being quiet. Fix it. Are you happy? No. You want to be happy? Yes. Then change something. You want to be happy? No. Then keep doing whatever you're doing. It's really that simple. You have the control to fix a lot of things if you just don't give up, right? If you just don't get up. So what are your boundaries? When is too much too much? Do you have them? Or are you just kind of hanging out, going with it, see where this career takes you? I have no tolerance for people who want to sell their soul. We got people working for coordinators who mistreat them all the time, and they're like, give me more games. Go ahead. Kick me around some more. And I'm thinking, why do you want to do that? Why can't you just stand firm? Can you be bought? Can you be bought? Word's out. People know if you can or not. And then in the midst of this whole business, I would encourage you to keep perspective. Because you're going to lose some things. You're going to make some decisions to sacrifice some things. Are those things you can get back? I don't know. I don't know. People sacrifice families for this business. And they said, no, I didn't. It just kind of happened. No, no, no. There are choices. There's choices. You can always get basketball back. There will be basketball. When Jesus comes back, there's going to be basketball. I'm telling you. But you know what? Your kids won't be there. Your wife won't be there. A lot of things will not be there. Basketball will be there. I'm telling you, when I stepped out, when I stopped coaching to have babies, I cried every year October 15th rolled around. Every year when the tournament rolled around. I wanted to be in the game so badly, but I wanted to raise my own kids. God provided a way for me through refereeing because I could not work if I didn't need to work. But then I was refereeing 85 games a year and I wasn't seeing my own kids in their own state tournaments. And I said, I got to step back. And he provided the secretary rules editor job that wouldn't let me go in a gym. For 5 years, I didn't go in a gym. And then the national coordinator job came open. They're like, we want you to do both. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to get on the road. So I called a 16-year-old in and I'm like, or he walks in and we're talking about it. And he said, well, what's the decision? I said, I'm not going to do this. Dad, I told Dad I'm not going to do this. And he said, why would you not? I said, because I've sacrificed my career to raise my kids and to see y'all play, and it's going to put me back on the road, and I just can't do that. And he goes, Mom, seriously? He said, I'm going to be 16 in June. I'm going to have the keys to a truck. You ain't going to see me no way. I've raised the biggest redneck you know. So keep perspective. This is my family. This is the crown I get to wear. The fact that I get to do basketball is just, in Louisiana we say lagniappe. It's just extra. It's just an overflow. I know we don't have time for questions, but
Do you have questions?
Yes.
I know you wrote something about bench reform under play calling. I was curious as to what you had to say about bench reform.
I don't remember. Probably already said it. Just the fact that I don't care what happens, they've got to stay within the guidelines. Now, the guys with way more officiating, I only refereed for 7 years. That's the irony behind my career, is I didn't referee that long. But they could probably give you more advice. But I know enough to know. And I felt like I had a good rapport with coaches, probably because I was one. But and I got to do 3 NCAA regionals at the Division II level in my short career, and a lot of that was attributed to my relationship with coaches. I think we have to build a relationship when they allow us to, but we have to be able to communicate. Doug and I are on the same flight yesterday. I tried to get on the earlier one. There were 7 seats gone, or 7 seats available, and she wouldn't let me on. I'm like, does that really apply to Diamond? She goes, yes, it does. I'm like, okay, good for you. You're enforcing the rules. I got to respect that. But my thing was with her is that we waited, and she never even acknowledged our presence. And so when we were talking to a supervisor later, she's like, well, this, that. I said, that's fine. I get all that. She did a good job. But she didn't even acknowledge our presence or instruct us to say, hey, go across from gate 18 and you can get on this flight. So I think it's the same thing with bench decorum. Is I think that we've got to be able to communicate, acknowledge them, right? Acknowledge their presence. I would encourage not responding to statements, but I would acknowledging you can do that without actually saying anything at times. But I think it's keeping them within their boundaries and being consistent.
I know this happened like a few weeks ago, but you deal with it
He wants me to comment on Gino's comments.
You want me to turn the microphone off?
Gino is in my conference, and I like my job. No, seriously.
I was just going to ask about.
Yeah, ask me.
Does there need to be do men and women's side for NCAA, do they need to become universal at one time? Like shot clock wise and other rules and such?
Oh, that's pretty quick. You played that one well. Yeah. So now the question, I didn't let him finish, is do the men's and women's rules need to be the same? I have been in countless hours of meetings on this subject and in special subcommittees trying to see where we could get together on common ground. I think the men don't need us. They don't need us. I've been saying that for years. We need them. Well, let me back up. The men don't think they need us. But everybody has a mama, right? Okay. They don't think they need us, but they do. And we know we need them. So when somebody is flipping a channel, my mom hated women's basketball. And she cursed more than anybody I'd known in my life. And when I was taking care of her, she was terminally ill, and we were watching men's basketball. She has the NBA channel. She's got all men's basketball, knows the rules. And we'd flip channels, and I would have to watch a women's game because it was part of my job. She would curse the entire time about how many blank and blank jump balls and travels and all this other stuff. And I couldn't argue with her. She was right. It was ugly. It's terrible. But I think when someone happens to be flipping the channel and they see two lines, are you serious? Those women can't step back another foot and hit a three? Seriously? I think we lose some credibility. Now, would that be the only reason? This is an example. The only reason to move the three-point line back? No, I think we should be able to make a three-point shot at 29. I mean, and we do. I mean, it was a huge deal when we were going through it. People didn't think we could do it. When we're getting blistered because it's 10 seconds in the backcourt and we don't have sense enough to call 10 seconds when we've never had 10 seconds in our game until 2 years ago. People didn't know that. Was it worth the blistering that we were taking? No, probably not. So why not just change it? There's a universal set of rules. We were the only team that didn't have a backcourt. I think there are some rules that we need to be the same on, especially things that from an outward appearance people can see. Now, who needs to make the change? I don't know. I mean, we always had a shot clock. We didn't have 10 seconds, but we always had the 30-second shot clock. The men didn't. Then they go to 45, and then they go to 35. Really? So why did they not go to 30? I don't know. Should they go to 30? I think there's going to be a lot of discussion on this next week or week after next at the Rules Committee meeting. I think it would be good. Some people do not. Charlene Curtis, who walked in, is on the Women's Basketball Rules Committee now. They're going to spend way too much time talking about things where we differ. We split the books last year for the first time since there was a book, the very first book, I think in 85. So people wouldn't have to read over other people's rules. I think there's some that need to be the same, and I think there's some that don't. I think the games are different enough that we need to do what's best for our game and the markets that we serve. But I think where we can keep them as close as possible, we should. We really should. Other questions? Yes?
Yeah, you obviously know your rules pretty well. Are there any strategies that you've used to help?
Time. How do I know the rules? Because I was sleeping with them. I was breathing them. I have been spending 8 years just saturated with them. But even before that, and David Gaskins can tell you this, and the people I refereed with, we spent time in the rules. We were on the phone on the way back from games, not gossiping about each other, but talking rules and situations. And no, I don't believe that. Oh, really? Well, how do you know? And making people back up their, even at this stage, making people back it up with the rules. I'm not taking your word for it because you said it, just because you're a Final Four. I want to know where'd you find that? Well, I don't know. I said, well, I need to know. So who can tell me where it is? I just would not stop with that, which I think is what made me a good rules editor. But spending time and talking about it and getting in a group where you're holding each other accountable to show you where it is in the book, because we have things we think are rules that aren't even in the book. I put them on the exam every year just to show people that they're not in the book. It's just an opinion. But I think you've got to spend time. It's like reading the Bible, right? I mean, if you start in the Old Testament, you're probably not going to make it. I mean, let's just be honest. So-and-so begat. I mean, you want things that are pertinent to you. So go where you feel like you have a weakness. Correctable errors are not that hard. And it's got the stamp of just being this horrible thing. Well, it's horrible because that's when the world knows we screwed up. The rest of the time, we only know we screwed up. But when we recognize it's a correctable error, now we got to do something with it. Go where your area of weakness is. I did a correctable error presentation years ago and made it. It was my correctable error tour the whole summer. It really was. They're not that hard to deal with when you understand first dead ball. We don't even have to count second live ball until it's an erroneously counted or canceled. 4 of the 5 have to do with when the clock is stopped. So go where you're, same thing in your life. Go where there's an area of weakness and build yourself up. And fortify yourself and make it a strength for you. Because if it's your weakness, it's probably somebody else's too. So I would find some place besides definitions, right? Go take those definitions, go into some place that you're afraid to go, and go get all you can get and be the expert.
You can make one rules change to the book without anybody else's say so. What would it be?
Oh man, after 8 years, somebody's going to ask me. Now I can't do anything about it. Geez, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that one. Honestly, I would get rid of you. You guys aren't going to like this. I would not have the restricted area arc. I think people ought to be able to defend anywhere they want to defend. If I get to a spot first, you ought to not have the right to run over me, much less get rewarded by going to the free throw line for it. I think this game was written that we all have rights, and if I'm standing there, you should not have the right to run over me. Would that be one of the motivations? What? Yeah, the lower defensive box was another brilliant idea by the NBA, right? We just stole it. But the other truth behind the lower defensive box and the reason that the women took it is because Art and I were making up interpretations. Honestly, on a lob pass, the year we voted the restricted area arc in, we had 3 carpets with a 2-foot arc, a 3-foot arc, a 4-foot arc. And we laid it all out, and the men already had the rule without the mark on the floor. We had a version of the rule years before. But when we voted it in, they're like, okay, we're going to vote the 3-foot arc, and people were flying out, and they're like, are you and Art figure out the rest? No kidding. So we said, okay, we're standing out there on these mats, and I'm going, all right, if I lob the pass in from an inbounds play, and I grab it and run over somebody in there, are they secondary or primary? Well, I don't know. Okay, well let's just say they're primary, and we'll write an interpretation. So we did. Outnumbering fast break. What is outnumbering? When they're all in the front court, when they're all in the back court. Okay, well let's just write an interpretation. We're writing all these interpretations to patch the rule. 2-3 zone. Who's a primary defender? If you don't understand a 2-3 zone, not to mention her version of her 2-3 and your version of your 2-3, who's primary, who's secondary, because the rule only applies to secondary defenders. So we write an interpretation for that. So what the lower defensive box said is that if you start your move to the basket from outside this box, arc is on. get your tail out. You got time. You see me coming. If you playing good defense, ball you man, you see me coming, get out. If the pass goes in quickly, right, or if it goes in however, and I make a spin move around my defender and I run into you, you don't have time to get out. It should not be on you. So guess what? As an offensive player, I shouldn't be running over people. Guess what? You run over somebody, the foul's on you. You're not going to the line. The foul's on you. So practice some self-control. Whenever we were having this discussion in the rules committee, they're like, well, players just can't pull up and shoot a jumper. Yeah, no kidding. You know what that's called? We're going the other way. Learn to pull up. If not, we're shipping it. So that's,
Debbie, let me editorialize.
please,
Okay, when we put that in, I was on the committee, and,
at the NBA.
correct.
Yeah, so understand, this is,
All right, we put that in, RA is not good unless you have that, okay? It's not good unless you have that, let me tell you what. We had the RA, or actually our deputy commissioner wanted to make it bigger. We had the RA, and we started our summer, all our coaches and everything are there, and they came to us with video, and they're showing us, we can't defend the low post. We wanna bring another defender, and, our guys are 6'11", they can't defend the low post. That's a bad rule. The spirit of that rule was to allow people to rotate from the weak to the top, to pin and rotate on the low post. For the guy, the run-through play, 90% of that time, you look at the speed of that play, it's an outside play. Because we would do the splits, and when we did all the data on that, so that rule works, because you can double the post. And the reason for the RA, demand on movement. Reason for the 16-foot lane, demand on movement. Reason for the defensive 3 seconds, demand on movement, okay? It is a game of movement. So, somebody who can't move, who stands there and really doesn't play any kind of agile, respectful type defense, that person can't play. So, sorry about that. but-
no, don't apologize for that.
Spent 4 years on that.
And why would we not use what they spent 4 years on?
Because they can understand.
Yeah.
Ed Billick came to me every year, and we would sit down, and we got to the lower defensive box and say, our guys can't do that. I said, yeah, they can. And they said, well, how long did it take your staff? It took us 1 year before we always, but it was all team officiating. If you watch in the league, guys come in and communicate, and they'll say in or out.
Yeah.
We have a whole thing, well, it's 63, they can talk to each other.
Yeah.
They get along, when they talk, and there's team officiating, and rarely does they get that quite right.
Yeah.
And the box is 16-foot lane, the box is.
Yeah, I wish we had the 16-foot lane, especially if they're looking at a 4-foot arc.
But that was these rules changed by years. 16-foot lane, and a defensive 3 seconds. I watch women's basketball a ton. It is a great game, but if you tell those people you gotta move more, think about that. Open the
Yeah.
floor up.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
All right, I'm sorry.
No apologies. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
I gotta- I gotta turn this down.